attempt, was done, that eventually failed.
Okay.
But in 2023, Ali and the parliament in Gabon,
Yes.
they worked on an aspect of the constitution which, they reviewed.
Okay.
Which was supposed to take effect after this his third term. That was that election of last week, which really not last week now, the week before last week, Saturday. Yes. Now they have reviewed the constitution to the extent that it had to affect the tenure, not the duration. No, not in duration now.
Okay.
Duration now of each term. They reduced it from 7 years to 5 years. That has been reviewed. It's only Ali that has done that. And so the problem now, let me come to the problem, my brother.
Okay. So that we can go to, we have many questions for you to answer, yes, so that we don't dwell too much on this.
The challenge is that anybody who finds himself in power ordinarily will want to work on the constitution in such a way that it will favor them to remain in power. Power is very sweet, particularly when it grants you the authority to control the economy and the resources of that country.
Would you say the legislature is complicit in this action of the executive?
Of course. Of course. That's the truth now. That's why the executive would always want to have their own in the legislature or by their way. We had a situation in Nigeria at a time when we had a president that was there between 1999 and was it 2007, who after then we heard that he was trying to lobby the National Assembly to have an amendment that would elongate tenure to 10 terms in office. It's in Nigerian history. We have not forgotten that. So definitely, they will always want their own in the parliament or National Assembly that will help them achieve whatever they want to achieve. And then don't forget the whole of corruption, that has not helped. But in all of this, it is in the place of the people, not in the place of the military, to take over power. It is the people that are supposed to take over their own power.
How do the people take over this power? How do the people of the country take over this power?
Very simple. Very simple. The first thing they have to look at is that document that provides the law. That document that provides that gives the president,
the constitution,
the sitting president at the time, the authority. You review it. If the military takes over power, and some of you are jubilating that the military has been able to punctuate what one sitting president has been having, it is not in their place. It is not supposed to be. So what you need to do, you look at the document that gives that any person who becomes the president, even you tomorrow becoming the president, the power. What does the Constitution say? Protest against the Constitution.
Okay, just a moment.
That certain things the Constitution should be reviewed.
Okay, just a moment, High Chief. Now, if we say that, if we established that the executive organ of government actually conspired with the legislative arm of government, which is Parliament, to make sure that they kidnap power by way of governing and perpetuating themselves in power, so that even when the people make noise or when there's an election, there's going to be that particular conspiracy is going to hold sway, so that the voice of the people or the decisions that the people make with their votes does not see the light of day. The people will already feel defeated, and the only people they feel, the only person or institution they feel can come to their aid is the military, which is the current interventions we are having in Africa at the moment. So that poses the question, if democracy is not just being a daunting challenge in Africa, if Africans themselves are calling for the redefinition of democracy through the intervention of military power, of the barrel of guns in the annals of governance.
Well, you keep referring to democracy, and I told you that democracy could be defined in different forms. And when you are talking about democracy, specifically, are you referring to the kind of democracy we have in the United States of America?
Okay, but Chief.
Democracy, hang on.
Okay.
Democracy in your definition now is definitely the situation that allows the people to go for balloting. You ask for election and
Yes.
you are voted for. That is your definition, but you are not really looking at how the people have accepted their own kind of democracy or defined their own type of democracy. Be that as it may, I have established that military incursion has nothing to do. It's not military incursion is an aberration in governance in anywhere in the world. But if it's the will of the people, we the people of
What about if it is the will of the people for the military to intervene in that governance?
I beg your pardon, could you take that again?
What about if it is the will of the people who feel defeated by the legislature and the executive for the military to come intervene, to come to their aid?
Then it is not in your place. It is not in the place of any other organization to say no.
Okay.
Do you understand it now? It is in that regard. Even while others from the outside, when I say from the outside, now talking about regional powers, talking about regional organizations, talking about continental powers, talking about continental organizations.
Yes, we're going to that part of the conversation.
Then it will not be for them to define it for the people. But where you have the people say the military intervention is just an interjection, to correct some anomalies.
Yes.
Even the military themselves will tell you when they come that they are forming a transitional government. When they are forming a transitional government, it meant that they too know that they are not meant to stay.
Yes.
That they only want to be like a stopgap. And thereafter, they leave.
Okay.
But from history, my brother, if you study military in power, which is one of the theses I have written at a point in time in my life, in my academic process, if you study the military in power, you discover that even the military coming to interject or coming in as a stopgap,
yes,
they have not been better. By the time they leave, when you access their governance,
yes,
you discover that they were not better than the worst civilian administration.
Okay.
Corruption, they cry about. They talk about corruption. They talk about bad elections. They talk about many other things. By the time they leave power, those things are still very much present in that system they are living.
Sorry, High
So
Chief.
it is like coming in.
Sorry. Maybe you can just land on your point so that we can just go on a break and come back.
Go on. You have broken the process. Just go on.
Oh, sorry about that. This is on record where every word matters. My conversation this morning has been on democracy in Africa, the daunting challenge, and of course the question if Africans are redefining the word democracy in the annals of governance in their country. My conversation this morning has been with security expert, High Chief Daunting Momo Umoru. We'll go on a break right now, but when we come back from this break, we are going to take our conversation to outside the shores of the continent of Africa and the interventions of geopolitical interests, talking about the West, the Americans, the United Kingdom, France, those who are known as the colonial masters of the continent of Africa, and the strings that they pull in the governance and the democracy in Africa, and how these strings that they pull, manifest in different ways. And some other questions, if there is another, stratification and division of Africa by the West. We'll go on a break, and when we return, our conversation continues. It's on record where every word matters. Do stay with us.
If it's public opinion, expert analysis, information that matters to you, we have it on record. Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. on High Impact 102.1 FM. Call us 0700-1021-1021. WhatsApp 0907-224-5018.
Put a touch of class and finesse on your brand by advertising with us at High Impact 1021 FM. For more information, call
0706 393 5694, 0915 958 1881, or 0902 745 3931.
Follow us on our social media platforms at High Impact 1021 FM. Our deals are hotter than the weather itself.
Our deals are hotter than the weather itself.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. It's on record where every word matters. Our conversation this morning is centered around democracy in Africa. The Daunting Challenge. Africans redefining the concept of democracy. And we're looking at that with a security expert. That's High Chief Daunting Momo Umoru. He is joining us via phone call this morning on the program. Good morning once again and welcome to the program.
Thank you, my brother.
Many thanks for joining us. Now, let's go to the part B of our conversation. High Chief, can you provide insight into the geopolitical interests that often shape international responses to these situations in Africa? I know that has taken a different dimension recently.
Geopolitical interest.
Yes.
Well, sometimes it's not okay. Well, let's look at it that way. The interests of some of these countries are what this international committee,
Yes,
countries, colonial masters, former colonial masters, and all of them, even those who were not part of it. Their interest is usually based on what is in those countries, what you have. You know, at the time, going to school, I read about the struggle for Africa.
yes.
That was in the era of slavery. You understand? Where most of these countries, like America, Britain, and some of them had huge plantations, and then they know that in Africa they have human resources that can really till the soil and that could be used. That was then in the era of slavery. But in today's world, it is what Africa has. We're talking about what Africa has. We're talking about mineral resources. And some of these countries will not even show concern in whatever internal crisis there is in any of those countries. I'll give you an instance. When we had internal crisis in Liberia, Liberia fashioned her political system, her economic system, their lifestyle after America. They even tried to talk like the Americans. But as much as the crisis in Liberia lasted, there was no other international presence aside from ECOMOG. It was the regional force, that was used, the peace force, the peacekeeping force, of ECOWAS that was used to, resolve the crisis. And Nigeria was at the forefront. Nigeria lost huge resources. Nigeria eventually was not a part of the rebuilding process of Liberia. Why were these other countries not interested? They were not interested because there was nothing for them to take away in return. It was only going to be like putting in your resources in trying to settle crisis in one small country. At the end of the day, you lose most of your resources, human resources, financial resources, and even brain. So at the end of the day, the first foreign policy of some of these countries is, as it affects internal crisis in some other countries or regions, is what will they gain? That is capitalism now. What would they gain? Which is different from communism. Any country practicing communism or socialism will want to look at it differently from the way a capitalist country will want to look at it. Let me take you to what happened between Iraq and Kuwait. At the time, in the era of Saddam Hussein, Iraq tried to conquer Kuwait, but America went there and took over Kuwait, saved Kuwait from Iraq.
Okay.
They did not just go there. They went there because of the oil that Kuwait had in large resources. And they benefited largely from that in the course of settling, or in the course of pushing away Iraq and eventually conquering Iraq, and which all of that now today is history.
Okay.
Whatever they might do to deceive the world, to talk about Saddam Hussein, eventually, when Saddam Hussein was taken out, the world discovered, even from researchers, that it was the picture they painted was not really it.
Okay.
They were there because they did not want to lose. They will not just lose, they will win. In Africa,
Yes.
why is Niger? There was also the issue of Sierra Leone.
Yes.
Did we have the presence of this international committee aside from UN at the time? UN, of course, it's a conglomerate
Yes.
of countries in the world who have But beyond that, individual countries in the West, countries in like America,
Yes.
who had the resources, material and human, to have helped to quell those internal crises in those places where they're present. But today, we are talking, if you talk about Niger,
Yes.
today, if you talk about Gabon,
Yes.
you have interest. The interest you have by some of these people is the mineral resources deposited. Gabon has a population of barely 2 million.
Yes. 2.3.
Gabon has a huge deposit of crude oil. Gabon is also known for the production of cocoa, which is largely needed by the West, which is largely needed by America, to be manufactured and transformed into finished products that they eventually sell out or consume. And so there's the interest.
Okay.
Niger has uranium. Niger, as small as Niger is, Niger has a population of about 26.7 million people. Well, these are projections today. But Niger, in the world, Niger is the highest, fourth highest producer of uranium. And you know what uranium is.
Okay, I might have to. Okay. I might have to interrupt you here, sir. Now, the thing is, can you say, you mentioned that during your time in school, you were taught about the stratification of Africa. Myself, I was taught in school about some things like that. Now, these have been taught long after the colonial masters who perpetrated these acts of colonialism. Now, can you say Africa is free from their colonial masters as we speak?
Africa cannot be free now. Even like in the course of my presentation, I did mention at the time that in the past we had forced colonialism, where the people come in here to take away slaves. But what we have today is that even countries are making themselves slaves to countries, slaves to these countries abroad, by themselves. How? If China gets angry today to say that most countries in Africa, if they don't pay the debt they are owing them, they will take over those countries. You know how many countries will fall? This is self-slavery. It meant that if you are indebted to a man, if you are indebted to a man, then you have sold your soul. Like when they say somebody sells his soul to the devil, then you'll be at the whims and caprices of that country, the dictation of that country. They influence everything you do. They influence your government. Because they give you money, they influence what they say. They dictate what they want in your country. And so beyond that, many African countries, even with the large deposit of these mineral resources, that makes them even richer than most of these foreign countries, what they lack is the capacity to manufacture, the capacity to transform the states of the raw materials into finished products that is at the level of consumption. Now, most of these countries, beyond being in Africa, being indebted to the West and America, China, and the rest of them, even Russia, they even themselves go for grants. These grants that are given to you are also used to manipulate you. You go hand in cap begging, and then it's either you are begging for a loan or you are begging for grants to govern your country. And so what you have, the mineral resources you have, the sales of those mineral resources, the cost is dictated by those people whom you are indebted to.
Okay.
Of course, there will be collaterals.
All right, thank you. Thank you, sir. Now, in just less than 3 minutes, let's say in 2 minutes, no, we can't talk about this without talking about the way out. Now, in your own opinion, what policy recommendations or strategies could help to address all these challenges, posed by prolonged single leadership in Africa and equally curtailing the manipulative hand of the West in governance in Africa? Just in 2 minutes,
Number one, the citizens themselves in each country, if they say they are fully independent, must understand that you have to define system of government in such a way that your people will appreciate. Elongation in office is not the way out. People will get tired of you, irrespective of how good you are. Irrespective of how good you are. We have leading examples like Lee Kuan Yew of this world.
Yes.
You have the likes of Mandela, who came out of prison, got a term, and said he was not going for a second term. History will not forget them.
Yes.
And so these are people, we have had great leadership, that some of to those people, because of corruption and poverty, which is one of the sticks that this West used to control us,
okay,
is causing us a lot of pain. One, we must learn not to sit in power for too long. Two, we must learn how to develop the capacity to manufacture the raw materials we have, instead of selling them at cheap products. Nigeria has oil, crude oil, but we buy petroleum or we sell petroleum to be refined and we pay. At the end of the day, we spend more here. We have not developed, Africa is yet to develop that capacity to manufacture, transform from its raw state, the raw materials we have, to consumable status of our raw materials. You see, Africa is an attraction to the world. It's an attraction because of the God-given deposits that are here that we are unable to manage. The moment we begin to think and focus on how to manage our resources, transform them to finished product, and sell the finished product, which will earn us more money, okay?
Yes.
We will not get anywhere. We'll continue to be enslaved. We'll continue to go for loans. We'll continue to wait for grants. And then we'll continue to wait for the manipulation. France, now, that policy of assimilation and integration that they have used, even in this era, to control their African countries, African brothers, and then they use it to manipulate who becomes the president of those countries because of their resources, so that they can feel have control. Now, the people are the ones suffering it, but the leadership are not suffering it because it amounts to corruption. So, and now if the people are rising, that is why you see that wind actually blowing across the Francophone country. You saw what Cameroon did recently.
Yes.
They have to reshuffle their military.
Exactly.
Because that fear is in there.
Including Rwanda.
That wind might get to them as well.
Yes.
And so they retired how many generals. And then they did the reshufflement of their military. It is the fear of that wind blowing across the Francophone countries, who are saying we want to disintegrate from your policies of integration and assimilation.
Okay.
We want to disintegrate from the slavery, neocolonialism that you have placed us in.
All right. Very,
and so the ones who are in power now should begin to rethink. Biya is not what Biya needs. It's not what he did. It's to review the constitution according to the will of our people.
All right. Hi, Chief. It's always 1 hour. It's not always enough having conversation with you on touching on very, very critical issues such as this. And I want to say we had a very robust conversation this morning. I hope we had a lot of time to even do this more and even do this in more time. I want to say very big thank you for your time with us this morning on record. It's great having you on our program.
My pleasure. Even at 1 hour, it's usually too much for me to give because I have a lot of things.
It's not enough, sir.
But because of the love I have for your radio and television, yes. I would always want to give in, even if for 2 hours. But usually it's heavy for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank God we're making sense.
Yes.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Have a great day. Well, you've heard it, Lagos. You've heard it, Nigeria. And this is where we draw the curtain. Always, my producers are trying to chase me away from the studio because I've really jumped into other time. Well, it's a good thing talking to us this morning, and thank you to High Chief Daunting for doing justice to the conversation this morning. I am Oyin Priye Krumale. It's on record where every word matters. Thank you so much, and see you next time in the week.
Welcome to On Record.
Every word matters.